I don't know which words I should say.
And maybe come up front so that people on the live stream can hear you and come use the mic.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a delay. Okay.
That's okay.
I think the camera can see me. Can you zoom out on it? I think I zoomed in right on you.
Okay, but you should use the mic.
Oh, I guess.
Oh, you want to sit down then?
No.
Okay.
I'll just.
Scott will take care of it.
I should have Purell. Quick words, Purell. I'm following protocol. Yay. So we have a very special guest today, Cynthia, who is a very nice person and has been teaching Jin Shin Jyutsu for forever, 30 years. I'm not even 30. I'm totally shocked. So her daughter and I were friends, and Lucy passed away a long time ago, but Cynthia's still around and still teaching Jin Shin, which is very cool. And I don't really know what else to say. I can hear myself. So I'm going to hand the microphone back to Cynthia, who will talk about Jin Shin and self-help and how awesome it is and how to do it.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks, Dev. So it's very sweet for me to be here. When Devin gave me the invitation, you know, there was no way I could say no, even though I live in New Mexico now.
Really?
Yeah. I first met, since Devin introduced me, I'm going to introduce him.
No embarrassing story.
I'll leave out most of the details. But when I first met Devin, do you know how old you were? I'm going to guess 3,
I was probably
2, 4, somewhere, certainly no older than 4. And I started giving him Jin Shin Jyutsu sessions. Jin Shin Jyutsu can be used as self-help, or a practitioner can work with another person. And for many years, I would go to his house, and we watched all kinds of great TV shows while I gave him his Jin Shin Jyutsu sessions. For many years, when he was littler, he'd sit in my lap, and then gradually we had to get a session table so he could get out of my lap. Got a little big. So anyhow, I'm really happy to be able to share with those of us here together in the room and those of us here together in the World Wide Web a little bit about this art, Jin Shin Jyutsu. Let me write that down for you. Do I have to Purell before I touch this?
You're okay.
Okay. Okay, it's Purelled. Okay, great. Because sometimes the name is sounding a little mysterious to people, how to say it. So this is spelled J-I-N, Jin, pronounced like Shin, just like, yeah, and Jutsu. So these are Japanese words, and you know, Japanese is a language which, like in English, often the same sounding words, even the words that are written the same, can have different meanings. And this has 2 meanings. Jin can mean body, and Shin can mean mind. Jutsu has 1 meaning, art. So many people have heard of jujitsu. Jitsu in that case also means art. This is not a martial art, however. Jin can also mean a person of awareness and of heart, of compassion. And Shin can also mean either creator or the energy of creation. So this is an art of the energy of creation through the person of awareness and compassion. That's the meaning of the name of this particular art. It's a form of acupressure. In other words, it's a way of using the hands to harmonize the flow of energy in the body. But it doesn't use pressure exactly. And it's a form which is really conducive to using as self-help because you can't harm yourself by using this. If you do it wrong, it just won't be quite as effective. So it's really, really useful both with people who are, in more delicate health conditions, and also for people to be able to use for themselves. In fact, people use this art from the time before they're born throughout their lives without even knowing it. Now don't move your hands, anybody in the room, okay? I wish we could move the camera because I see several people already using Jin Shin Jyutsu without even knowing it. So I see, I'm sorry, I don't know your names yet. What's your name, sir? Brian. So Brian has his hands at the location of the knee and kind of at the inside of the knee. Well, this is one of what in Jin Shin Jyutsu in English we call safety energy locks. It's one of the places that both holds on to energy, like say a lock in a water system, to prevent it from flowing incorrectly, from flooding or going, and it also harmonizes that flow of energy. I see, oh wait a minute, I'm testing my mind. George, holding here. This is another safety energy lock. Let me tell you which each of these helps with a little bit, okay? This one here helps energy go down. So it helps the exhale. It helps whatever's stuck, anything that's held in the abdomen or the chest or the throat or the head, be able to descend. Jin Shin Jyutsu is seeing, the physical, for instance, the body, as a form of energy. And so when the body starts to hold something up, say in the chest, energy's not able, we hear that energy isn't able to freely flow downwards. And so when I place my hands here, that helps the energy flow downwards, which can unburden the chest, can unburden the gut, for instance. George is holding here, and this helps to open up the waistline, so my digestion. And I don't just digest food, I digest my experiences, I digest what I'm hearing. In other words, when I'm learning, I'm digesting what I hear and see and experience. So, it's pretty common that I see people in class start to hold the elbow area, helping the digestion. I see some other people in various ways holding fingers, and we're going to talk about the fingers or the hands, because each finger, as well as the palm of the hand, helps very specific aspects of being. Now I'm using the word being because Jin Shin Jyutsu, which is rooted in the roots of traditional Asian medicine, is an approach to the body that doesn't separate the body, the mind, and the spirit. Traditionally, Asian philosophy, the Asian understanding of life, and therefore our understanding of the body from this perspective, is one in which, we see the body as something separate, but really it isn't from the mind or from the spirit. And, our medicine from the West is really understanding this more and more. Psychologists are talking about, hormonal activity and all kinds of other microcellular activity that relates to the emotions. And doctors are noticing that when people have emotional support, they do better physically. So this is becoming a less foreign concept to us here in the West. Where was I there? Jin Shin Jyutsu is a very vast study of being. In other words, what's life? How does life become this physical form? How does life circulate within this physical body I am? and the connections. So we're always seeing the connections. And it is an innate art. So I want to speak for a moment about art, because art doesn't mean being a painter or a musician or a dancer. What do you guys think art is?
Creative expression.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. In other words, everyone is an artist. Anytime we are being a conduit for that creative energy of the universe. So I can be an artist as an engineer, as a doctor, as a housewife, as a mother, as a child, all the time. Anytime I'm not just following what someone tells me, but I'm listening, observing, and creating. So this is an innate art. I mentioned that we start using it even before we're born. In the womb, babies start to suck one or another finger. I think it begins in the 3rd or 4th month, really early. And they develop pretty quickly a preference. Now, typically, just as when babies, after they're born, most babies like their thumbs, and we'll go into the why of that in a little bit here. But some prefer other fingers. They generally prefer right or left, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with right or left-handedness. But there's an innate knowing of which finger, they don't know yet to hold it, which is what we're going to learn today, but they are, in a sense, stimulating the energy that finger helps to harmonize. So this is something we use our whole lives around the world. It's not cultural. And we can become aware of it as a tool, and then it gets even more useful. So let's all start. Before I go into more description, I'd like to actually start with everyone experiencing, consciously using the Jin Shin Jyutsu, not knowing too much about it yet. So let's all go to our knees. And I want you to feel into this. Let me put this away. Okay. So the actual safety energy lock is, can you guys hear me still back there? Okay. Okay, yeah. The actual safety energy lock is in the medial, the inside of the knee. And you can hold right on right, left on left, or you can cross your hands. Try it both ways and see which one feels more comfortable. Because the more comfortable is going to be the more efficient technique for you now. As well, find out if it feels better to actually hold right at the inside of the knee or to come up a little bit into the inner thigh. In fact, you can kind of feel around your inner thigh and see where it, just where it feels good. So we have all this, there's some leeway of choice here. This isn't like acupuncture, where there's one little point and you have to get the needle right there. This is there's more individualization within each body. So you find it by feel, what feels interesting or feels good to hold. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Is there a correct posture for sitting?
In terms of upright, down, or
For
whatever?
example, I'm just reaching for my knees.
Yeah.
And it's not as comfortable because I'm reaching.
Yes.
Whereas if I'm just basically in the thighs here.
Yeah,
I'm seated, comfortable.
Great. Thank you. Wonderful question.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Yeah. So the question was, is there a correct posture for sitting? And the observation was, I'm sorry, your name? Dave. David was saying, if he puts his hands to the inside of the knees, he's having to reach. And that's a little bit of a stretch. Whereas if he comes to the inside of the thigh, he can sit in a more comfortable position. Go with the comfort. That will be more efficient now. It might be that after I'm sitting in that comfortable position for a while, I notice, oh, it's easier to reach than it was, and I'm interested in doing so. But there's no need to like force in any way in this art. And that includes out of my comfort zone. So I can really be comfortable, and that will be the most efficient. Great. So let's, just for a few minutes, simply leave our hands here, or move them around as you wish into another area of this inner knee, inner thigh, and just, relax. I usually close my eyes when I'm using self-help because it helps me just focus inside and just notice how I'm feeling. I'm simply allowing my hands to rest easily, lovingly. Allowing my wrists and elbows and shoulders to exhale. Let it go. There's no need to force in any way the body or the mind or the breath. Simply being here. From head to toe, exhaling all I do not need. And without any force, simply receiving with each breath. All I need, and exhaling. Exhaling yesterday. Letting that go. Exhaling last week. Exhaling last year. For this moment, exhaling tomorrow. My hopes, my fears. Exhaling next week. Exhaling next year. Simply receiving now. One breath and exhaling. Shoulders melting into toes. Dropping everything I do not need. Great, thank you. You know, usually the groups I'm working with don't share a particular focus as we do today in terms of the project that is, so key in our lives. Usually there's a mixture of people from all different realms of life, and many people, however, everybody, even if they don't have cystic fibrosis, the breath is key for everybody. And we tend to focus on getting, on taking, on what we need. For instance, I need a breath, and we tend to forget that that's going to be able to happen to the degree that I let go. That the exhale comes first, and then there's space for a new breath, or a new thought, or a new perception, or a new way of being. So holding this inner knee, inner thigh, helps with the exhale. And as I was saying right at first, that means it can mean the physical body exhaling. It can also mean the mind exhaling. I had an amazing experience with this very self-help technique once, when my daughter Lucy was about, she was, I think, 3 or 4 at the time. And she was diagnosed at 20 months old, and I was introduced to Jin Shin Jyutsu a couple months after that, and was quite skeptical. Now, before Lucy was diagnosed, I was kind of anti the medical world. You know, I had, my doctor was an acupuncturist from China and da-da-da-da. And that worked for me, right? And, but wasn't working for Lucy. And then she was diagnosed, and it was really clear her life was saved by medical intervention. And she needed a lot of it from right at first. And for her, the first 2.5 years, she continued to actually be in, we had weekly rushes to the emergency room, basically. And one thing that was going on with her was that there was so much bronchospasm, which wasn't controllable, that, then if she got a cold, it was immediately, rush to the hospital. So, one thing that set off the bronchospasm even more was cigarette smoke. And she could not be around cigarette smoke at all. And this was before there were those laws in restaurants and such, And even if we sat outside on the patio and the neighboring table, someone smoked a cigarette, she might be in very, very bad shape the next morning when she woke up. She was so, sensitive to that. And one day we were visiting. I did not at that time live in New Mexico, but my mom did. We visited my mom, and we heard about this fabulous flamenco dancer that was dancing at a local hotel. And Lucy and I both loved dance, and we decided to go with some friends. We got there. The stage was in the bar, and when we went inside, opened the door and went in, children were allowed in bars in New Mexico those days. It's kind of the Wild West out there. We went in, and it was like a Humphrey Bogart movie. I have never seen so much smoke in my life, ever. Now, by this time, it had been a couple years where my life had been pretty much utterly devoted to Lucy's care, and it was quite extensive. She needed 4, pulmonary therapy sessions a day. One of them had to be in the middle of the night, or she would be so congested she wouldn't be